Also wanted to mention that Lubbock County Judge Curtis Parrish will be joining us in studio this morning. Talk about what the county commissioners court has been up to. And they've been busy. Yesterday was a big news day for them. Several interesting stories came out of the commissioners court, one of which is they're going to seek a $10 million federal grant, CDBG money, to repair the dam. And in the studio to talk about that and a lot of other things is Judge Parrish. Good morning, Curtis.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
Good to see you this morning.
You look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
My eyes are bright. I don't know what my tail is looking like right now, but sort of bushy, I guess.
So I was just telling the listeners that yesterday was a busy day for the court.
It was.
I don't know where you want to start, but I do want to ask you this, though, before we do start.
Sure.
Has the COVID challenge kind of taken the wind out of your sails as far as what you wanted to do as judge of the court, or do you think it's – I know it's part of the job. You have to contend with things that come up out of left field, but in a way, are you a little disappointed about how things have fallen out this year starting in March?
I'm not sure about disappointed as much as it does dominate pretty much everything we do. We have to now kind of look at all of our policies and procedures in light of, well, how does this affect our COVID policy? That's an absolute truth. But you know, when this thing started in mid-March, and when we started first seeing that effects here in Lubbock, I stood up and made the decision: we will absolutely make sure that county government still functions for the people of Lubbock County.
And you've been in the office every day, right? Almost every day.
Yeah, every day. So, and as well as all of our department directors. Now, there are some personnel that we sent home to work from home, but we didn't lay off anybody, and county government still operated. We still were operating the services that the people of Lubbock County need. That never stopped. And I'm really proud of the fact that our employees had really stepped up and made sure that county government continued to function. But I think a direct answer to your question is I think I, like everyone, wish that COVID wasn't upon us, and that we did not have to adjust all of our lives. I mean, it's not just what you do at work, but what you do at play. I mean, when's the last time you went to a movie theater?
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing where I was like, you start the new year, you kind of have an agenda professionally.
Sure,
I want to do this and I want to do that, and this really entertains me, and this is a subject that I really want to get into as judge, or I want to get into in the legislature, that type of thing. And all of a sudden, this gets dropped on your head, and all that goes out the window. So I think everybody's kind of like looking for a reset. When can we start over again? Is it the first of the year? Or?
I don't know the answer to that question, Matthew, but I do know the answer is that we will continue to do the reasonable and sensible things. I know one of the things that we had done yesterday was just let our local disaster declaration lapse. We said, we put some policies in place from the beginning. I'll tell you, I only made 3 really major decisions as a county judge during this entire pandemic. The first one I did is one that I'm really kind of still seeing the repercussions of, but I do know that it still was the right thing to do, and I'll still defend it. When we saw this virus happening, it was outbreaking in our nursing homes, and our nursing homes were literally on fire with the virus. So what we did, the first thing we did was close the nursing homes to visitors. Of course, as everyone knows, they're still closed. But that was the right decision to make. We were seeing massive epidemic numbers coming out of our nursing homes, deaths coming out of our nursing homes. We had to do that. And that has affected me very personally. My mother is in a nursing home here in Lubbock. My mother-in-law is in a nursing home here in Lubbock, and we have not seen them face to face except through either Zoom or FaceTime or through the window. All we can do. I have not held my mother's hand in 6 months, and she is utterly alone. I had a probate hearing the other day, and it was from a gentleman who had died of COVID, and we were probating his estate. And I was talking to his son, and offering my condolences to him, and sorry. And he said something very profound, and I told him, I said, I'm going to use that. He said, my father may have died of COVID, but we're all victims of COVID. And we are.
Yeah.
Matt, and that's the bottom line. We are all victims.
One way or the other.
Of COVID.
Yeah. You raise a good point because, from what I hear day to day, it centers on two things from people. One is the nursing homes, and my mom or my dad in the nursing home and so forth, or my sister or my brother. And the other is being out of work and getting Texas Workforce Development, Texas Workforce Commission, getting unemployment.
Right.
Anyway, those are two good issues. We're going to take a break and come back with Lubbock County Judge Curtis Parrish and talk a little bit more, a lot of things actually, but we'll go over what the court did yesterday. KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We'll be right back. Well, we're back with Curtis Parrish here on KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. I'm Matt Crow, sitting in for Matt Martin. And Judge, we were talking over the break about the challenges during COVID and
are many.
How do you maintain employee morale in something like this? I mean, people look up to you in the courthouse and they see what your attitude is, and they probably key off you quite a bit. So how are you keeping up your attitude through all this?
Well, for Lubbock County, it's show up every day and work. We are servants of the people, and we serve the people. And our people in Lubbock County, many of them are hurting, and many of them, in fact, all of them need Lubbock County services. And if you are a servant of the people, you show up and serve. That is your first priority as a Lubbock County employee. But I also know that we also need to take care of our employees and make sure that they feel safe and that they feel secure in their employment. And so we put things in place early on that if you did not feel comfortable, or you were taking care of a child who couldn't go to school or daycare, we set up things that you could still do your job from home if possible. Or we just adjusted, and we made adjustments, but we made adjustments based on what was best for that employee. But overall, how do we continue to serve the people of Lubbock County as well?
The emergency declarations that you referenced earlier, tell me, okay, so I forgot now, what were they?
Well, as you know, I mean, the statute allows the county judge and the mayor of a municipality to declare their area, their jurisdiction, a disaster. We did that early on. It had multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons was it allowed us to tap into federal funds. In order to compensate the people of Lubbock County. It allowed us to tap into state funds. But what we found out pretty quickly, I'm sure because of the news stories, y'all know exactly what I'm saying. We found out pretty quickly that it was really the governor's office that was running the disaster.
Tell me about
in the state of Texas.
If you've got a question for the judge, 770-5790, toll free 1-800 687-0790 if you have a question for Judge Parrish. Yeah, the governor, I mean, from a political standpoint, obviously he's not up for re-election this year. A lot of people contacted my office saying I'd never vote for that bum again. And, during this election, I'm not voting for him. And I'd listen and I'd, wait for the kind of the anger to taper off a little bit. Right. I'd say, well, he's not up for re-election this year. If I could get that far, because sometimes people just hang up the phone. They'd be so upset. But I think a lot of people are going to get into the the polling booth and look for Greg Abbott. Who's running against Greg Abbott? I'm
Why isn't he there?
Yeah, where did he go? But,
well, and to that end also, I think this is going to be an extremely interesting legislative session.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it will be dominated by COVID. Usually in a session like this that ends in a 1, it's dominated by redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to have that domination redistricting because we're not going to get the numbers until after the regular session is over. And
right.
The governor will have to call a special session just to deal with redistricting. That being said, the legislators, including your boss, they're going to have to hunker down and figure out how to wade through now post-COVID.
I think it's going to be a little bit like what you guys have experienced on the court. I mean, you had your shoulders, and, noses to the grindstone throughout this whole thing, and really only dealing with the real honest-to-gosh nuts and bolts, making sure that the county was operating properly. And I think that's going to be the same thing in the legislature. I don't think there's going to be a lot of room for political shenanigans. I think they're going to be, as you said, dealing with the COVID, the budget. And there's also a rather enthusiastic and motivated crowd of legislators who want to trim the sails of the governor and look at the Texas Constitution and see what can,
well, that and 440, all of those statutes, those emergency power statutes, and and I'm not here to defend the governor. I certainly won't, but I don't think he did anything illegal.
No,
I mean he did everything that was granted to him by the powers vested to him by the legislature through the statutes. All that being said, just because you have the legal right to do it, should you have the political right and moral right to do it? That's two different questions.
When we come back, we're going to talk about a certain dam in the area. I think interesting. And then at 7 o'clock, Dave King will join us. So keep with us. KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We'll be right back with Judge Curtis Parrish. KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. I'm Matt Crow sitting in for Matt Martin, and Matt will be back next week. In the studio with us is Judge Curtis Parrish, and I want to save the dam issue that y'all discussed yesterday for the next segment when Dave's on with us, because I think Dave has family who live out in Buffalo Springs Lake. And
well, if we don't have family out there, we certainly have friends out there, and we certainly have plenty of Lubbock County citizens to live out there. We're
talking about the governor earlier in the little time we've got left. You hit on an important point, and and as a judge and a lawyer, you must have given this a lot of thought. Like you said, what the governor has done has not been illegal, but that doesn't make it still sit too well with people.
That's right.
You must think about that a lot in your day-to-day activities.
Well, you do. You wear two hats. I mean, you want to do the right thing, and you want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Both of those are in play.
All right. When we come back, we'll have Dave King on. Judge Parrish will stay with us, and keep on listening. And by the way, it's a little cool out there this morning, so you might want a sweatshirt when you come to work. All right, we'll be back after the news. Well, welcome back to KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. I'm Matt Crow, and in studio is Judge Curtis Parrish. And by the wonders of technology, Dave King is on the line. How are you, Dave?
Well, I'm good. I got the telephone, wonders of technology.
That newfangled telephone device. Good morning, David.
The judge is in the office. Hey, Judge, how are things going with you?
Going very well, thank you. Yeah, we're just showing up, working hard, and trying out some clean living for once.
Yeah, you got all the county's money counted and in your desk drawer locked up, and
I'll let Chris Wynn handle that as county treasurer.
Heaven help us.
We'll let him. I give him the keys, so he gets to guard that for us.
I heard you guys talking about that we were going to talk about the dam, the dam, McMillan Dam, out at Buffalo Lakes. And I do have a son that lives out there, and I went across that dam yesterday, and I looked very closely, and saying, "Well, this looks like a fine, sturdy dam. What's wrong with it?" And that's what exactly is wrong with that dam, Curtis?
Well, there was a study done, and this is approximately around 2008, so it's 12 years old, where they went and kind of looked at some of the understructure. Yeah, I mean on top, but what lurks beneath is that there are some issues. And anyway, through that study, that the McMillan Dam, which holds back creates Buffalo Springs Lake. This is the dam that creates the lake. It was deemed a high risk dam. Now, that doesn't mean it's about to break and everything's going to happen. It was just it had fallen into the category of high risk, and this was back in 2008.
Are you talking about the dirt part of the dam or the cement spillway, or both?
I don't know if there's much issues with the spillway itself, other than maybe some valve issues. But no, we're talking about the actual dam structure itself.
Okay.
And so, since that time, I think that they've been kind of looking around to see, okay, now what do we need to do, and what's this thing going to cost? And then over the summer, Clinton Thetford, who's with our emergency management coordinator, found a pot of money that's really being held by the General Land Office in Austin for disaster mitigation through CDBG. Now, it really sounds like, well, why didn't we know about that before? And Matt Crow can absolutely confirm this. When you start talking about pots of money that are out, who knows where they're at? I mean, it is amazing, the bureaucracy that you kind of have to kind of wade through to find out, what is out there for us to be able to tap into. So we found this, and we're under a deadline to go get it. And I think it's absolutely a prudent thing for Lubbock County to do. Go after this money. If we get this grant money, which is a non-matching money, so we don't have to put up dollar for dollar or 20%. This is a full grant in order to make the necessary repairs to this dam. When it was built, I'm sorry, it was built over 50 years ago, and I don't think it was designed to be a 100-year dam. I think it was designed to hold back some water, to allow some water to controllably flow on down the Brazos River.
Well, I've been going to that dam. I've been water skiing out there since the late '60s. So, but I can tell you that the Buffalo Lakes has grown up and improved. Something that's just unbelievable.
Well, let me tell you a little bit, just a little bit of history and why this thing has kind of come to a head now, and it's what's happened in the city of Lubbock in the last 10 to 15 years, and that is the city of Lubbock began a stormwater drainage program. So it used to be when it rained in the city of Lubbock, that water just kind of stayed in Lubbock until it somehow dissipated or it went into one of the playa lakes. But now, when we have a rain event in the city of Lubbock, that water drains through, and it eventually ends up going to Buffalo Springs Lake. So if we get a large rain, I mean, you like clockwork, you can just hit the clock. If we get a rain in Lubbock, 3 hours later, you're going to have a near flooding event at Buffalo Springs Lake. And that was because of this stormwater drainage program that the city did. And that has kind of put quite a bit of stress on that earthen dam out there every time it rains. And so and I'm not saying we're crossing our fingers, but I think we're at a place right now where it says, look, because we've done all this at the front end of this water, we got to make sure that the back end of the water flow can handle this. And so that's where we're at today. We want to make sure that the back end, in this case, the McMillan Dam or the Buffalo Springs Lake Dam, can handle what's coming to it from the city of Lubbock.
Curtis, I've heard a figure that it's like $12 million.
No, we don't really know, David. I mean, and that's why we part of this grant program that we're doing is up to $10 million, and part of this is also hiring an engineering firm, and then they will go out and actually do a deep survey on this dam first to find out exactly what is needed. I mean, they could come back and say, hey, it needs to be a concrete dam, it needs to look like the Hoover Dam out in Nevada.
Yeah.
I don't know that. What I do know is that this is the first step. We've got to go after this money. If we can get this money, then we move to the next step.
I guess that there's no way to even speculate on whether they would have to drain the lake to repair it.
I'm a lawyer. I'm not a dam engineer.
Well, I don't know. I've heard that you're pretty good.
Well, thank you. I don't know, David. I can't tell you the answer to that question. All I know is that it's prudent for us to get this process started.
David, if they do drain it, you and I are going out there with metal detectors and rubber boots to find all the
no kidding.
Gold watches and rings and binoculars and everything else that's fallen off of boats out there over the years. I guess, that too, guns, knives, whatever. But, Dave, you mentioned you water skied out there. Is the water, and I have to say I've been to the lake, I've never been in the lake, but is the water, is it clean? I mean, can you swim around in it?
I've had people tell me it's the cleanest water of any lake around. I don't know about that. It certainly isn't very clear.
Well, it's one of the top triathlon locations in the nation. So
I don't know exactly
they don't
why.
mind getting out there and swimming in it.
Curtis and I were talking over the break that there was a dam out in California suffered a major breach just a couple of years ago, and it was a lot younger than 50 years. So I think there's I think that's the right to show the attention. We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk a little bit more about what's going on in the court, and then we'll expand our horizons and get into the current news locally and across the state of Texas. KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. In the studio, I have Curtis Parrish. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning. Good morning.
And on the line, Dave King. And let's go right to the phones. We have Clyde has a comment about the dam, the McMillan Dam. Go ahead, Clyde.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, gentlemen.
It's been a long time since I've seen your face, old friend.
I know. We got to do something about that.
Yeah. In the mid to late 60s, I lived at Buffalo Lake when it was still a quirky little place, primitive, quirky little place to live. A little bit of interesting history about that dam. W.G. McMillan Sr. was the major contractor in this area in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that's why he was a civic leader. And that's why the dam was named after him. And I believe he was a pusher and a shaker on that thing.
And you're right. And Clyde, I'll tell you, when I took over as county judge, came in, of course, during the transition period, I was spent quite a bit of time in Judge Head's office, and we were talking and going through, his 20 years of being a judge, and he had a shelf of emergency management stuff. And I saw there was a binder called McMillan Dam, and I go, McMillan Dam? I said, what's a McMillan Dam? I didn't even know it had a name. To me, it was the Buffalo Springs Lake Dam, and that's when my eyes were opened to the issues regarding the McMillan Dam. And I didn't even know it had a name until right before I took office. To me, it was always the Buffalo Springs Lake Dam.
Right. Well, he built a lot of the construction at Tech. He built the little golf course that used to be out on West 34th Street. The main reason I called was it's ironic that this came up at this time. W.G. Jr. just died a couple of 3 weeks ago.
Oh my! Wow.
And Bill was a pusher and a shaker too. I knew him real well.
I hope we can do right by the legacy of the name and really take care of that for the people of Lubbock County.
I kind of miss living out there, but to get Sherry to move out the lake, it'd be like getting my teeth pulled, I guess.
Clyde, what made it quirky, as you said? Was it some kind of bohemian 60s hippie kind of thing, or what was going on out there?
Yeah, Clyde is bohemian 60s. He's a hippie.
Yeah, you know me pretty well, old friend. It was not bohemian hippie. It was just like Ruidoso used to be. A lot of little individual cabins and sheds and barns and but an eclectic group kind of used to gather around the the loading dock and the little restaurant there, and they'd all get around to kind of laugh to watch us put our boat in the water because we had a pretty good-sized boat. We'd put it in the water with a little Morris mini miner from England, and people would take bets almost to see if we'd get the thing out of the water or not. But it was just a lot of little cabins and houses, and it wasn't as many, and I'm not opposed to it, but it was not as many as the expensive homes and as they have out there now. Yeah. Out on the edge, on the north side, there's a concrete pier out there, and there was a 3-story house that set out on the water, and it was from there was a, I can't think of the name right now, but there was a man that owned toy stores all over Lubbock, and that was their house, and they lived out there. But it was just, it was more primitive, more quirky. It was just not as.
I can tell you that like I say, my son lives out there, and if I understood him correctly, I believe he told me the other day that all the lots are now sold. There are no more. At least there's no more on the water lots. And he was telling me about just a real plain vanilla ordinary house that just sold down the way from his for $350,000. I mean, it was sitting back.
Right.
Anyway, that lake is now, I think, pretty well completely developed, and the property values are skyrocketing. And of course, if you haven't been there in the last 5 years or so, they've made tremendous improvements. In fact, my wife and I were out there yesterday, and as we drove in, there was just no one there. Being a Monday after 5, and when we drove down the hill, we looked out, and I said, they're doing a remarkable job at this lake. There wasn't a.
They've redone all the camping area. My family and a couple of families from church used to camp out there, and there was always a story that there would be city sewer floating in the water. That never happened, and we know that for the Lubbock City discharge water at the Gray Farms up on top of the cap, it's mandated that water be at least stream level clean before it hits the lake.
Yeah.
Clyde, thank you so much for the call.
You bet.
I appreciate the history lesson. I thought I'd stumbled on a bohemian hippie story out there. Obviously not.
Well, there's other stories about Clyde. Love you, my brother. Thank you.
Yes, love you. Talk to you later.
Let me get in this text message this morning. It goes right along with this. This is a quick question for the judge. Why aren't we trying to reclaim some of that storm water in the form of some sort of reservoir instead of just dumping it into Springs Lake? That water could be used for public use. Well, if I am correct, Curtis, if my memory is correct, all that water that passes through Buffalo Lakes and then Ransom Canyon does flow down the canyon to Lake Allen Henry. Am I correct about that?
I don't think they're on the same stream, but there are. You just have to create another reservoir that looks like Buffalo Springs Lake on up the hill.
All right, we're going to come back after the news. Stay with us. KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. Well, welcome back to KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. Tomorrow, radio legend Paul Bean will be in the studio, and Dave, that's a potent combination of radio talent. Paul Bean and Dave King. I would describe you all as like radio war horses. There's not a lot.
War horses. I've been called a lot of things, but that's a first. But I was thinking yesterday. Paul and I together have well over 100 years in broadcasting here in Lubbock.
Hey, I wonder.
Now, I don't know how much brilliance and knowledge we can impart on the audience. Now, that's another thing. I didn't say there was a lot of that. But.
Judge, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I want to change gears real quick to more of a pop culture issue, and that's Mac Davis. Unfortunately, news out of Nashville is that he underwent open heart surgery yesterday, and he's not doing too well, and that's very unfortunate. And what I wanted to say, number one, of course, is that we'll pray for him and his family. But number two, of course, what he's meant to country music and to television and his hometown of Lubbock. And I've often wondered, being a relative newcomer to Texas, Buddy Holly is shown one angle of respect and history here, and Mac is shown a little bit different because they were different eras, I think is safe to say, and different styles. What would you say that's accurate?
Well, I am absolutely a huge Mac Davis fan, and Mac Davis kind of came along. I mean, he definitely did what he did because of Buddy Holly. All was inspired by Buddy Holly. But Mac Davis gained his fame from being a songwriter, and and a
nice guy.
Absolutely, and to this day, I absolutely still love Mac Davis songs. Some of the greatest stuff I know. It would be real easy. I mean, and I don't want this to sound like a tribute, because Mac Davis is not deceased. What we know is he is in critical condition following heart surgery. So the tributes probably will be for a later day. But I've always been in awe of Mac Davis music, and have always been a huge fan of Mac Davis. One of my favorites, and this was. I think this was even before I knew that he was from Lubbock. I know he came out with Lubbock in My Rearview Mirror, and everybody goes, Lubbock in My Rearview. But if you listen to that song, it's a tribute to Lubbock. It's not a We Hate Lubbock song at all. I'm glad Lubbock's in my rearview mirror. In fact, the song ends. It's now I see Lubbock growing dearer and dearer to me, and that when I die, you can bury me in Lubbock in my genes. So it's very much a tribute to the city of Lubbock, rather than I thought happiness was Lubbock, Texas in my rearview mirror, but it really isn't. Mac Davis is one of the great songwriters of any generation.
Coincidentally, I just saw a YouTube video of Mac talking about his relationship with Elvis, and evidently they were friends, close friends.
They were friends, and in fact, I'll tell this Mac Davis story. I know we're off news topic. Let me tell this one. All right, so Elvis's favorite song. So of all the songs Elvis did, what was his favorite? And his favorite was "In the Ghetto," which was written by Mac Davis. And Mac Davis will say that he wrote this song. Even though it's stylized about Chicago, he wrote it about his experience growing up in the tech ghetto. So one of the most famous Elvis songs was really written about Lubbock.
Fascinating.
It was about Mac Davis and his experience growing up in the tech ghetto and seeing this, what he called the circle of life, which is really the name of the song rather than "In the Ghetto." And so even that most famous of all Elvis songs has that Lubbock connection to it. I don't know. It's just, yes, Elvis and Mac Davis were friends. He wrote that, of course, A Little Less Conversation, which became really more popular after Elvis died. That became really more popular 20 years ago than it did while Elvis was living. But it's an incredible song. If you listen to Mac Davis's version of A Little Less Conversation, I mean, it is West Texas twang. I mean, it is that West Texas sound. We always kind of say, well, what makes West Texas so special when it comes to music? Listen to A Little Less Conversation by Mac Davis, not the Elvis version and not the version that was done 20 years ago. But listen to Mac Davis's version. You can hear West Texas in that song. It's great.
Curtis, so you just hit on something, and I've heard it mentioned more than once. Why does Lubbock, Texas, and particularly this little small area here of the South Plains, have so many people? I mean, they just go on and on and on. The Maines Brothers, Dixie Chicks, and on of people who were really big in the song industry.
Well,
and I heard someone say, I think it's because that we have such strong churches here in Lubbock, and even the little kids, they learn to sing in church on Sunday.
Well, that's what
I don't know.
That's what Joe Ely and Jimmy Dale Gilmore will tell you. It's because music is a major part of West Texas life, and whether that's music in churches or music at schools, if you look at over the years, our band programs and our choir programs in our Lubbock schools or in our West Texas schools have been absolutely phenomenal. It's because it is a culture here in West Texas for music and arts and I'm talking not just music, but acting and sculpture and in any sort of arts, expressing yourself with your hands and your creativity. I think is a West Texas way. It is what we do, and I think what we do builds on who did it before. So you look at those who come before, and you just constantly and continually build on that. I want to make sure that my kids and my grandkids who also grow up here in West Texas still have that same creativity flavor. I want them to be creative and use their talents and their skills that God gave them and express themselves in music and in art and sculpture and acting and theater, all of those things. It's the West Texas way.
Important to know.
Matt,
go ahead, Dave.
Have we talked yet about the Commissioner's Court and the disaster declaration?
We did earlier, and
Okay.
Curtis
I thought maybe
he gave a good overview of that. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about tonight's debate, and also I'll get the judge's take on Amy Coney Barrett, the president's nominee for the Supreme Court. We'll be back right after these messages. All right, we're back KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. I'm Matt Crow, and I'm judged. I'm joined.
You are joined.
I don't want to get well. Yeah, I suppose I will be at some point. Curtis Parrish is in the studio, and wanted to talk to Dave and the judge about the presidential debates tonight, and asked Dave, "Are you planning on watching the debates tonight?"
Oh man, I tell you, I wouldn't miss it because I just want to see how Biden's going to get through it.
And keep in mind that KFYO is doing a debate show tonight.
Yeah, that's right. I think we have a pre-debate show and a post-debate show of the coverage, and so you can listen to it live. I like to do a little bit of both. I like to see the faces on the debaters, Biden and Trump, because they are so colorful. But at the same time, I'm reminded of, years ago, and of course I was a little boy. I didn't watch it, but people who listened to the Kennedy-Nixon debate said that they thought Nixon had won it on the radio, but people who watched on television thought Jack Kennedy had won the debate. So it kind of points up kind of a stylistic thing and how Biden and Trump are going to approach one another. But Judge, are you planning on watching the debate as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's must-see TV.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be very entertaining. Dave, who do you give the edge to tonight in the debate? If you were handicapping this like a horse race, what would you say?
I think he's got to go with Trump, but he's good at it. I mean, he's super confident and all that, and we'll see if Biden can keep up with it. I mean, I've seen so much stuff that you hang your head, you just shake your head, things that he gets confused and like I've said, I am approaching his age, and I'm beginning to become a little Biden-y in my memory. So I appreciate his confusion problems.
Judge, as far as Biden is concerned, we've got this recent revelation that President Trump only paid $750 in taxes, I guess, in the last cycle, and certainly the Biden people jumped on that. However, Trump could, point out the fact that the United States Senate and the House of Representatives also control the tax laws, and if, like you said earlier with Abbott, if it's legal and you only have to pay $750 and you've made millions, I mean, if he's within the law, he's within the law.
Right. And I do want to back up one about, rather than talk about Trump's income taxes, we're talking about the debate. I think you and I had even mentioned it when we were talking in between breaks, is that I think for the first time in a long time, the debates are for the undecided, to swaying the undecided one way or another. I think now that what we're seeing in these debates is how to motivate your base. That's what these debates now. Instead of trying to persuade somebody to one side or the other, these debates have one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to motivate your base to get out and vote. So to that end, Trump knows how to motivate his base, and that's what you're going to hear. How does Biden motivate his base? Well, Biden motivates his base by pointing out how bad Trump is, because that is the motivation of the Biden folks, is vote for me because I'm not Trump.
Yeah,
And that is the entire message of the Biden campaign.
In my opinion, the left has done such a very good job of turning so many people to hate Trump, because it is real. The hatred for this man is real out there on the left.
You raise a good point, and to that end, you may be interested to know, I was going to get to this a little bit later in the show, but there was a Facebook post last night. I'm not sure who put it up there, but there's a Dump Trump rally that's going to be, I think, Friday afternoon around the Loop. We just had this huge rally at Cook's Garage, and it jammed up the Loop, and there was something crazy number 6,000 cars around the Loop, but there's a Dump Trump rally on Friday on the Loop, and again, they don't have a meeting site. They're just asking you to get on the Loop with your Biden signs or your anti-Trump signs around 6 o'clock, which means I'm going to be off the Loop by 6 o'clock. If I don't know how many people are going to show up, but I thought that was an interesting response. Judge, did you see any of that rally on Sunday with all the cars and so forth?
I didn't get caught up in it, but yeah, we certainly knew about it. I think it was an incredible turnout, peaceful. These are the things you want in political rallies. You don't want couches being lit on fire and stuff like that, which we tend to see around other places around even the state of Texas, but certainly around the nation, where we see political gatherings that turn into
keep it cool. Yeah,
turn into
cool.
Couch burnings.
Right.
We didn't see that in Lubbock, and I'm very proud of that.
No kidding. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about a few other things. The new Supreme Court Justice nominee and get everyone's take on that. And by the way, the debate tonight is at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, in case you want to set your alarm. All right, we come back a little bit more of KFYO in the Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. I'm Matt Crow. Matt Martin will be back next week. He had to deal with some family issues, but everything's all right with his immediate family. They had a death in their extended family, so we'll keep
God bless them.
in our prayers. Dave, now what's your take on Amy Coney Barrett? I think the other day you gave her a thumbs up. Do you think she's going to be confirmed, or you think there's going to be some problems with it?
Well, man, it's looking like she's an A+, and from everything I'm seeing, it seems like it's going to be very difficult for the left to really attack her in a very serious way. Of course, they're already doing it. Oh, my God, she's a Catholic. Oh, my God. Well, Biden's a Catholic. Am I not right?
Yeah, he is.
Nancy Pelosi's a Catholic.
Seven of the current Supreme Court justices are Catholic.
It doesn't keep them from spouting their nonsense. But I don't know. I don't know what the Democrats can do to stop it. Because that's an area that I certainly have no expertise in at all. Now, Curtis would be the one probably to know what the Dems might be able to pull off to stop it.
Curtis, real quick, did they give her the thumbs up or the thumbs down?
I think they give her the thumbs up. I think she'll be. I think she'll be confirmed.
All right, when we come back, lots more news to get into, local news and statewide news, right after the news. All right, we'll see you in a sec.